Hello everyone, here with Romano talking about our current events this week and looking at a self-reported near miss from publicsafetynearmiss.org. Website set up so people can self-report near misses, trying to learn, share the lessons learned with other members of the fire service and any other emergency services. Talking about an incident that occurred where they self-reported that they had accidentally taken a truck over a bridge that was not rated for the weight. They were taking a heavy rescue weighing, said 20.4 tons over a bridge rated at 20 tons. There is a little bit of lack of information on how it was posted, with the fact that bridge weight limits do matter on axles and size of the truck as well as weight. But they did say that they did have a policy they weren't supposed to take that heavy rescue over that bridge. How much research they did and whether exactly it really was, I don't know. Did a little bit of research looking into that of the bridge formulas, with it stating that it does vary greatly on how long the truck is, just because of the fact of having the 20 tons concentrated in a smaller chassis is more dangerous than it being longer, and also whether the fact that it was a single dual rear axle would make a large difference. But since they say they had a policy they weren't supposed to take it up, we're not supposed to take it over that bridge, they obviously shouldn't have. The problem was that there was a lack of information from dispatch on what exactly the run was, is what they stated. Said they went for a code arrest. Did not state whether that is what exactly they were told prior to them leaving the station, or that was updated information. They said that if they had known that they were, and then if they had known where they were going, they wouldn't have taken the engine. So it sounds like there was also some disconnect on the exact location of the incident. As I say, I wish it's an interesting case, and just wish that whoever had reported had given some more information about it. Also stated one of the problems that they had was making the decision, because every person involved in the situation was acting. The engineer, the company officer, and even the battalion commander. I can't remember if that's the term they used, but the supervisor that was following them, they could call him on the radio. They were all acting up out of classification, so that everyone was worried about making a bad decision, because one of the worst things, I can say one of the worst things, but one problem with being in an active role is one of the things is always worried about is not being aggressive enough, because we're the fire service. We're supposed to be aggressive, right? So that does lead to people erring on the side of aggressiveness rather than necessarily erring on the side of being correct. So as I said, worried about that decision. Luckily, no problem occurred, but there was no in the report, there's no talk about what they did to try and solve the problem. But here it does sound, like I said, that the main problem here was a disconnect with dispatch about what exactly the call was, and where it was. So if it had been someplace else, they didn't have to go to the bridge, they would have been finding the truck they were in. But knowing where it was, they would have taken different trucks, what they're saying. So obviously some sort of combo going on there. Not knowing exactly what department or what size or what all they capabilities they have, I can't comment on what they could have done better there. With relevancy to my fire department here in Akron, Ohio, it's not really because of the weight, because of height. We do have an issue that Akron is a very old school industrial city, rubber capital of the world and all, where we were industrialized fairly early. Not as famously as as many big cities as Detroit or New York or Chicago, where there was industry early on, but not too long after that, with the rubber companies coming along, we wind up having a large presence of railroads. We have a lot of railroads. We have a lot of railroad bridges. So we were industrialized fairly early, and add that with the fact that we have, for not being a famously hilly city either, we do have a lot of terrain. The Cuyahoga River runs right through Akron, so we have some very large elevation changes. So we wind up having a lot of bridges comparatively to most. We even have some of the very old school bridges that were built with prior engineering skills and materials, where it's two embankments that are very close with a very short bridge, to the point that there's only one lane nowadays. That you can only go, that only one car can go through, with a sign there saying beep if you're going to as you pass through to the person on the other side, because you cannot see. There's several turns or just simply vision is blocked because of the embankments themselves. That is a one-lane road. Thankfully, the most famous of those has been taken out. They decommissioned the railroad line and ran it someplace else. But it existed, and that embankment specifically was so narrow a fire apparatus could not fit through it. We had no apparatus to fit through it, or we did, but we don't anymore because as rigs have been getting bigger and bigger. No aerial or ladder apparatus can fit through because of height, and most engines can't. Most engines, almost certainly, all the frontline units we have today could not fit through because of width. That even raised up some problems. Talking back with the situation in the near miss report, that what side of the railroad tracks an incident was on, whether it was a wreck or a car fire, because there were lots of car fires there, because it was a very isolated, weird road that people use as a shortcut. So lots of people went there hoping to avoid the cops. There were lots of wrecks there, people being drunk driving. There was lots of times that people would dump and burn cars there, so we had car fires there. But which side of the railroad tracks was always very significant because which way could get sent there. But now, with us having the issue with having bridges that we know are very low, we have it posted in all the stations. We have mentioned in training every year, and every time a new rig comes out, it is specifically mentioned which bridges this will not fit under. This truck will not fit under, with forms put out, usually laminated, so you have it there. It flops around the cab, but it's always there. You see it. So with training and awareness, make sure everyone knows which bridges are low, which ones are not going to fit underneath, specifically which bridges this truck itself that you are about to drive today will not fit under. We hope to avoid any problems, and we've been able to do that so far. I've seen it happen specifically when there was a new fleet of garbage trucks um, bought by the city that happened to be about 6 inches taller than the old ones, or at least just the way that they were shaped, if I remember right. That the new garbage truck didn't fit underneath the railroad bridge down the street from my station because the hinges on the back, where the truck would open on the back, the hinges caught the, the railroad bridge, which was mildly humorous because all it did was tear the door off the back of the truck and spew garbage for several hundred feet down the street. We got called for that, looked at it. Luckily, no one hurt, no damage, no nothing we could do about. So all we did was laugh and move on. But other than that, hope everyone's having a good week. We'd love to hear your thoughts.